Good morning, friends. It's your boy Max Mogren, live for you here in beautiful Alpine, Wyoming. This is Wake Up Wyoming for November 1st, 2017. Hope you all enjoyed your Halloweens. I sat in bed and read a book, Derek Brose's new book, getting ready for the interview tomorrow. Good morning, Brian Peterson. Good morning, Alan Morningstar. Looks like you had that comments all ready to rock there. I saw you post that earlier too. I don't mess with Nibiru, man. I don't know. Yeah, we covered this thing about the power grid. Good morning, Brian, again. We covered this thing about the power grid several days ago. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not worried about the planet Nibiru, I'll tell you that much. And if the power grid goes down on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, well, we'll know why, right? But we don't really have any control over it. If you're not prepared with at least a couple weeks or months worth of food stored up in your house, you're asking for it these days. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We might as well go right into the EMP thing since people are all concerned about it. That's right. There's a drill coming up on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th where the DOD, they're allegedly going to do a drill. Interestingly, North Korea has been conducting mass evacuation drills too for the potential of an EMP/blackout. Rare blackout exercise mass evacuation drill took place in North Korea last week, according to NK News, citing multiple sources. Blah, blah, blah. So long story short, North Korea getting ready for a potential EMP attack. Forbes chimed in a little over a week ago that a North Korean EMP attack would cause mass starvation, says congressional report. Again, I don't think we really need to worry about North Korea using an EMP against the United States. I really don't think we have to worry about the United States using an EMP against the United States. I don't think we really need to worry about EMPs at all. The system that is slowly killing everybody off, making them dumber, is working just fine for the elites right now. There's really no reason for them to do some drastic, crazy event that's going to affect everybody. So if an EMP attack happens on the 4th, 5th, or 6th of November, you can blame me for saying it wasn't a big deal. It was just your classic fear porn. But you're going to have no way to get in touch with me because there ain't going to be no internet. Your computer and your smartphone are going to be fried. So, I don't know. I chalk that up with things I choose not to worry about. People, why get all bent out of shape? Why get all worked up about something that the mainstream media is pimping, right? That's the whole point of this show, is media literacy, cutting through the spin, cutting through the fear mongering. It turns out that if you spend your entire life glued to the news cycle, trying to analyze every single event that happens as it happens in real time, that is a recipe for a disastrously failed and pointless life. Okay? And that means a lot coming from me. I'm a guy who knows from experience. Speaking of which, a lot of people, I literally have had 10 people send me a link to this event in New York City. It's like, hey, I appreciate everybody sending me stories, but I got it. I see that it happened. Just like the Vegas shooting, I'm not going to jump all over an event and make a huge deal out of it as it happens in real time. Like people are sending me, I had 3 people send me links to a feed of like a 4-hour live stream of helicopter and drone footage. I'm not going to sit in front of the computer and watch 4 hours of mainstream TV news to try to figure out what exactly happened in New York City. Give it a few days. If somebody out there really wants to find out, go for it. But I'm not going to spend 4 hours watching TV news. If you send me a link to that, I'm probably not going to write back to you about it. Here's the suspect. Trumpo, what did Trumpo say? They blamed it on ISIS. We must not allow ISIS to return to enter our country. after defeating them in the Middle East and elsewhere. Enough. Okay, there you go. There's Trump's response to this situation in New York. Again, I'm not going to jump on it. I'm not going to follow the news cycle so closely. And people send me links to 4-hour live feeds from mainstream TV news. I don't even know what to do with that. Like, I'm not going to watch that. If you want to be the frontline guy that figures that stuff out, go for it. Speaking of ISIS, Trump blaming ISIS. Apparently, ISIS materials were found in the pickup truck of this guy who was running people over in New York City. Well, the former prime minister of Qatar has come out and formally admitted that the U.S., the Saudis, the Israelis, and the Qataris joined forces to support ISIS and al-Qaeda in Syria in an attempt to overthrow Assad's government there. So if they're blaming ISIS for this, the military-industrial complex is basically blaming itself. We can speculate. Was this guy a victim of mind control, right? Was the latest terror suspect a mind-controlled MK Ultra drone? I don't know. I have no clue. Probably neither do you. But if you find some credible evidence, send it my way. If you're going to send me a 4-hour live stream of TV news, save yourself the hassle of copying it and pasting it into a comment or into a message to me, because I don't have time to watch that, and really neither do you. But anyway, the point, ISIS created, funded, supported by the U.S. military. In, I don't know, other news, BBC, smartphone use falls among the young for the first time. People think, ooh, wow, that's good. Is there a big change? No, not really. Market researcher Kantar TNS found that those within the group of 16 to 24-year-olds, crap, nice logo there, guys, found that they averaged 3.8 hours on their phones per day, down from 3.9 hours last year. So not a big change. The point is your average 16 to 24-year-old is spending 3.8 to 3.9 hours per day on the phone. June Kim, who is 24 years old, says she has not cut down her usage. It's part of my life. I just use it all the time. I think I'm on it for 12 hours a day. The only thing that worries me is electromagnetic waves at night. So I try to keep it away from me while I sleep. Pretty good advice there from a phone-addicted girl who's on it 12 hours per day. Moving along. Top headline today. Speaking of people that don't spend times on their smartphones, rest in peace, Fred Beckey. If you don't know who Fred Beckey was, there's an excellent movie put out by the fine folks at Patagonia Outdoor Sporting Goods Company called Dirtbag. It's all about this guy named Fred Beckey, who was a legendary, who he still is legendary, climber, dirtbag, guy who spent more time camping out, living out of a vehicle out in the wilderness than sitting in front of a computer screen, that's for sure. A guy who wrote 12 books, a guy who pioneered countless routes in the mountains of North America and all over the world. And he wasn't even that, like, in terms of like technical prowess, he wasn't one of the strongest climbers of his era in terms of like physical strength. But in terms of the adventuresome spirit and living outside of the confines of civilization, and being a good example for people that want to kind of get off the grid and do their own thing, watch Fred Beckey's movie. It's pretty good. Pretty good. So there you go. Moving along, next headline. This one's kind of fun. The Visual Capitalist coming out with an interesting chart here. The $63 trillion of world debt in one visualization by Jeff Desjardins. How much government debt exists? According to most recent estimates from the IMF, governments have accumulated $63 trillion in total, and the U.S. makes up almost a third of that amount. That's right, the U.S. is $20 trillion in debt. So look at this. Of course, the real question is, who is that debt owed to? The other question is, Why do we let the U.S. boss us around when the United States government is literally the deepest in debt organization on the planet? Um, Pretty funny. Debt as a percentage of GDP, you can see that's factored in there too. So, for example, in Japan, GDP debt is over 200% of GDP. In the U.S., it's about 100% of GDP. Um, Pretty wild. In China, it's about 30% of GDP. So they're doing a little better than us in terms of that. Moving along at Market Watch, this chart illustrates who still has access to the American dream. Hint, probably not you. A sense of injustice and betrayal arise, along with the sense that something has gone profoundly wrong with society. American dream, keep dreaming. Unless, of course, you're breathing the rarefied air of the global elites, or maybe close enough to them to catch some of their scraps. But for the rest of us, forget it. That's the gist of what blogger Charles Hugh Smith had to say in a recent Daily Reckoning post highlighting the struggles of the common man. This is the reality, he explains. The American dream is now reserved for the top 0.5%, with some shreds falling to the top 5%, who are tasked with generating a credible illusion of prosperity to the bottom 95%. Smith used this disturbing chart, which was highlighted in our daily Need to Know column, to illustrate the point. Check out the chart. The super rich get super richer. The fruit of financialization. That's, financialization, I guess you could substitute the term quantitative easing, money printing. We're looking at it here from you can see lower income households had the highest growth in 1980. Now the super wealthy garner virtually all of the income growth. The higher the income, the higher the growth rate. For the bottom 95% of Americans, life is typically getting harder and less prosperous as the cost of living rises, wages are stagnant, and the demands on workers increase, Smith wrote in reference to the chart. Meanwhile, the asset bubbles, that's like housing, government debt, stuff like that, inflated by central banks, have enriched the top 10% of households, which own over 75% of all assets and take home over 50% of all household income. Okay, another good article from Charles Hugh Smith of Two Minds. Japan just killed the Bitcoin will be banned meme. One of the most durable claims of cryptocurrency skeptics is that governments will ban Bitcoin once it threatens their fiat currency or their control. Ben Bernanke recently gave voice to this claim as if it was received wisdom. Sorry, crypto skeptics. Japan just killed the Bitcoin will be banned meme. Japan has established itself as a safe haven of all legit cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrency exchanges. Japan is not just the world's third largest economy, it is a keystone of the global economy in supply chains, ownership of overseas assets, capital flows, and technology. Japan's embrace of cryptocurrencies suggests the Japanese understand that adoption of crypto and blockchain technology offers whatever nation is firstest with the mostest in legal protection of these technologies will have a powerful competitive advantage. I like that. Firstest with the mostest in legal protection. Many crypto skeptics claim the U.S. can browbeat adopters of Bitcoin into banning cryptos via various threats, such as limiting access to U.S. banking. Memo to skeptics. Japan is too strategically important for the U.S. to browbeat over something as small in scale as cryptos. Furthermore, Japan is long past the point where it will automatically comply with every self-destructive demand of the American imperial project, the beloved military-industrial complex. As he's often cited here before, the market cap for the entire crypto market, 170 billion, is mere signal noise in the $500+ trillion market of global assets. Even if the crypto market rose tenfold to 1.7 trillion, it would still be nothing but a tiny blip in the global asset marketplace. Okay. Again, the percentage of world debt, Who are we in debt to? $63 trillion of world debt. Who's it owed to? Governments owing it to central banks. It's a big scam. And cryptocurrencies, arguably one solution. I don't know. It still remains to be seen. We'll see what happens. Worth keeping an eye on. Moving along. Facebook says it will double safety and security staff to 20,000. Has anybody out there checked if the Wake Up News page is working for them? It wasn't working earlier. Obviously, we've got an audience here. Thank God for that. But it's funny. I've had several people alert me that the page isn't working. I just tried it out. You can see you try to go there. No love. I don't know why. Luckily, we can get Facebook's working, and I can do a live feed, I guess, via a third-party software. But our page is down. I'm not sure what's going on there. Facebook says it will double safety and security staff to 20,000. Facebook Incorporation said it will double. Well, I mean, they just repeated their headline there. And I can't read the rest of that article because I don't have a Bloomberg Premium content. Much more common now for these news services to make you pay to play, right? This was sent by Siobhan, one of our readers. Thank you so much. Talking about Twitter shutting down people's accounts over the 36 Tory scandal. The whole crackdown in social media is nothing new. We should probably start building some pretty hefty email databases because, I don't know, can't really trust the social media networks. I've shown that to people before, how our videos, these videos, I appreciate it so much. You all will share this. And I love the fact that you share it. Thank you so much. But the problem is not that many people see those shares. Wake Up Wyoming will probably never go viral, maybe because it's so boring, but also because it is not mainstream. Google's parent company, Alphabet, now has a 60-person division called Jigsaw that's helping to fight fake news, right? It's kind of funny when you Google for that EMP attack thing, right? The EMP drill, I should say. The first article that comes up on Google now is a Snopes, right? Snopes is all good. The mainstream is totally cool with Snopes, even though it's like a website run by one couple. And it's pretty easy to go through there. If you're logically sound, you can go through Snopes and kind of rip their general arguments to shreds on the reg, if you really feel the need to do something like that. But Snopes, not fake news, according to the mainstream, according to Google. Of course, folks like us here at Wake Up News, who do commentary on the mainstream, probably regarded as fake news by our dear friends at Alphabet/Google. Sad to see the internet so censored. This is a really important article here, really important. And if you want to know why, it's because if you look closely at this image here, look real closely, what do you see? What do you see? It's a round Earth. That's right. Proof from the Chinese government that the Earth is in fact curved. So there you go, flat earthers. China tests new spy drones near the space death zone. The most high-flying U.S. drones can fly at around 19 kilometers above sea level at that altitude. But now the Chinese are making these fancy little drones that can fly at about 25,000, and they're real tiny. Interesting to see the Chinese approach versus the American approach. Of course, the military-industrial complex, what do? Well, we built robots. Let's start strapping missiles on them and use them to blow people up all over the world because that's what they do. Sad to see. So, I don't know. It is what it is. Moving along. New Zealand considers creating climate change refugee visas. Okay, we're always told about climate change. Some real shocking imagery here of people who their houses are underwater, at least temporarily. New Zealand could introduce a visa to help relocate people affected by climate change. Of course, the mainstream coverage of Climate change never addresses geoengineering or weather warfare, even though we live in the era of geoengineering and weather warfare. Moving along, speaking of geoengineering and weather warfare, hurricanes and wildfire recovery efforts are costing the United States $200 million per day. Okay, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. If you really think about it, you know, I've done the little spoof lately where I'm trying to raise $10 million. That's right, 10 million. Anybody out there pony up? With 10 million, you can either buy like a mansion in Jackson Hole, or you can fund 100 independent journalists working for $100 per workday for 1,000 workdays each. Of course, just the recovery efforts, the government's efforts to protect us from hurricanes and wildfires costing $200 million per day. The lights are still off in Puerto Rico for the most part. You know, the whitefish deal was scrapped. We all followed that. But the important thing, the take-home lesson here is the government loves wasting your money. And every service that the government provides is with assets that were either borrowed from a profit-driven private central bank or stolen through taxation. So every time the government says it's doing this to help you, doing that to help you, just bear in mind they're using your money, and they're doing a very, very inefficient job of it. Speaking of big bucks, on Patreon, I'm at $315 per month. Apparently, I lost 2 patrons. Haven't had time to really look into that. Maybe people's credit cards got declined. I don't know. I had 11 patrons yesterday, and I warned everybody, like, hey, if you want to get out before the month rolls over and you actually have to pay me some money for doing my research and my show and my videos on here and writing this book about the dog, you better jump ship now. And we had to jump ship. Yesterday's show is pretty good. I got a new video up there, the 3rd time I should save my life. Check it out if you feel so inclined. And there's the video. That's our live stream right now. So that pretty much brings us up to the Jackson Hole Daily. Let me close this out. Again, we look at the Jackson Hole Daily because it is the mainstream newspaper servicing the wealthiest county per capita in North America, at least in the United States. Teton County, Wyoming. This newspaper, as far as newspapers go, is pretty good. It is still 70% advertising, 20% fluff, only 10% actual news. But it's also, you know, very deceptive. 10% news is pretty deceptive, but it's better than no newspapers, I'll tell you that. The local news, there's a big flux over a liquor license, huge deal there. When the government controls people's liquor licenses, people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in Teton County to get a liquor license. It's ridiculous. The sage grouse, you know. What do we want to say about the sage grouse? There's always a fight over the sage grouse. It's kind of a backdoor way of limiting oil and gas development, so I'm for it. But it's kind of sad that they just can't be like, wow, why don't we just implement the most efficient and ecologically responsible energy technologies right out the bat? Because they're good for people, because they're good for civilization. And as an added bonus, the sage grouse will be safe. Of course, seems that you got to go, you know, the way environmentalists have to operate within the corporate oligarchy is like by way of the Endangered Species Act, protecting the sage grouse. That is used to stop oil and gas development, when in reality, people, like, just basic logic, common sense says, why don't we develop Tesla tech, like Nikola Tesla tech? Why don't we develop geothermal energy, right? Solar, that stuff works really well. Turns out you don't need oil and gas if you really put your mind to it. Not much, nothing too real exciting there. I guess good coverage here from Writers on the Range about going outdoors and how it's so expensive. Like, you can spend thousands of dollars on camping equipment these days. But in reality, to go out into the outdoors, you don't need much. So if you want to be a dirtbag like Fred Becky, rest in peace, get outside. I'm more tempted to do that every day, as this experiment in media seems to pan out as expected. Legendary mountaineer Becky dies in 94. Again, check out the movie Dirtbag if you haven't seen it. Bear attack in the Washakie Wilderness. Hunting guide and his female clients were attacked by a grizzly bear while dressing out an elk. The hunting guide John Sheets, rushed in, grabbed the bear by the neck, and stabbed it with his hunting knife, which caused the bear to retaliate. Sheets said they were able to escape on their horses. So it sounds like the beginning of a romance novel with Fabio on the cover right there. Bear attack. They're going to be okay. Property damage claims from a series of deadly October wildfires now exceed $3.3 billion out there in California, says Dave Jones, the California Insurance Commissioner. The figure represents claims for homes and businesses insured by 15 companies. Blah, blah, blah. And it's more than triple the previous estimate of $1 billion. 43 people were killed in the October blazes that tore through Northern California, destroying thousands of buildings as more than 100,000 people were forced to evacuate. The fires are now nearly contained. Okay, we've been covering this story for a while on Wake Up Wyoming. It's a lot bigger deal than one Muslim man or whoever it was driving a van down a bike path in New York City, killing a few people, right? Thousands of homes burned, 43 people dead, and unusual evidence pointing to the potential that these fires may have been started intentionally using advanced weaponry. Let me see if I can find you a good picture of that, because it's just kind of weird. The whole situation's kind of weird. Let's see. I'm looking through a bunch of pics here. Got my folder full of pictures here that are related to Wake Up Wyoming. You know, you see stuff like this out in California. It doesn't make much sense where like vehicles are flipped over. I wish I could move that, but I can't. You know, cars and houses totally torched while the surrounding foliage is still okay. Just, you know, I'm not saying with 100% certainty that there was some crazy technology used to start these fires, but it seems odd. You know, they blame the PG&E, the electrical utility out there in California, took the blame for this. But 22 wildfires started on the night of October 8th over the course of about 5 hours. And there apparently were some high winds in the area at the time, but people were also reporting unusual blue lights in the sky. And, you know, pictures like this, you see the power lines are still up in this particular location. This car torched while the surrounding foliage largely untouched. It's just weird. It's important to bear in mind if we see more crazy fires and stuff, that people should be paying attention to what's going on, trying to get the message out. This situation in California exacerbating the already dire housing situation out there, where the prices are going up and up and up and up. Kind of a trend nationwide. We're told that inflation's running at 2.3%. But of course, housing prices are through the roof, and that's great for the people that own stuff. Not so great for the working class folks just trying to get by, right? So yeah, cost of housing through the roof. Wildfires in California burning down thousands of homes, displacing hundreds of thousands of people temporarily. Really bad for the renting working class. We already covered the motorist killing 8 in New York City. You know, it's interesting. New York and other cities around the globe have been on high alert against attacks by extremists in vehicles. The Islamic State group, which is funded and supported by the U.S. military-industrial complex, has been exhorting its followers to mow people down. And England, France, and Germany have all seen deadly vehicle attacks in the last year or so, okay? You know, every time there's like a mass shooting, we get the push for gun control. Is there going to be a push for vehicular control, for car control? I don't know, but I would venture to guess that probably 10 years from now, when the self-driving car has really taken off, I bet you there'll be some areas, some cities, where you're not allowed to drive your own car. That would just be my guess. I don't know if it's true, but yeah, I don't know. Sue Green chiming in, yeah, Max, your page would not come up. Picked you up on my news. Lee Mackey saying that picture looks fake. You're talking about the picture from California? I know it does look fake. That's why it caught my attention, but it's a real photo. You know, you can go online and look for pictures of the California fires. You'll see all sorts of stuff. Clayton Best, what's up, bro? Everybody chiming in, thank you. Jerry Ann Durbin Fairman got booted out again. Jerry Ann, thanks for sending me some links. I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate people sending me links. The point I'm trying to make today is just like, let's not get totally overwhelmed by the news cycle. Like, we don't need to drop what we're doing and sit in front of the computer or stare at our phone or watch the TV for hours at a time every time something bad happens in the world. Because the mainstream media is going to, that's how they work. Terrorism is the rule through fear, right? Terrorism, rule through fear and intimidation or outright violence, okay? If every time something bad happens in the world, it floods into our homes, it floods into our awareness and our consciousness, we need to fight against that. Michelle Bula chiming in, Canada had strange fires last year identical to the California fires, right? You know, we don't know with 100% certainty what's going on, but it's important that we keep track of this and think about it. If every time, you know, every time there's some unusual fire or something, if people make a big stink about it, maybe, just maybe, there'll be less incidents like that in the future, right? Like, do you think that the U.S. government, for example, look at 9/11, okay? Back when 9/11 happened, most people were not nearly as critical of the mainstream media and the government as they are now. There's a much, much, much larger percentage of the population who's more awake, aware, and critical of the government, the media. So if there was another 9/11 where thousands of people are died, used to justify a war, people would be up in arms about it, right? Up in arms, right from the day it happened. As opposed to with 9/11, for example, I took myself like 8 years before I was even willing to take a good look at the official story. So, yeah, that's the point. Ryan Edwards asking, is the EMP test real? I mean, I think so. It's been picked up by some reputable news outlets like Zero Hedge and Global Research. And other papers are covering it too, like some British papers, but you know, it sounds like it's just a drill. I highly doubt that they're going to kill the power across the United States. I just highly doubt it. There's no real reason for a huge abrupt change into the way things are working. You know, the average American is pretty controlled. They go to their little slave job. They consume the poisonous food, they consume the poisonous information, and they go about their lives happily, right? Well, happily. And then the mainstream media does its job. The censors online do their job. You know, sources like this, the independent media, we're kept in a little box. So I am really not super worried about the EMP. Greg Cheney chiming in there. It's a good comment there. You know, they're not taking down House of Cards. Again, we covered that yesterday. That's a classic publicity blitz, okay? There's actually a political cartoon in here today. If you didn't follow it, like Kevin Spacey, one person came out with a sexual assault allegation that was 31 years old. And then on the same day, Netflix announced that this was going to be the last season of House of Cards. They didn't like abruptly end the show. They'd actually been talking about it for months. And Spacey came out that he's gay. Okay, it's a huge publicity blitz for the show, right? Now, I'm not trying to belittle or downgrade the importance of addressing problems with pedophilia and sexual assault in Hollywood and in DC and in the halls of power over the world. But I don't think Kevin Spacey's a pedo. And the only accusation against him is like 31 years old. You know, maybe it'll come out in the wash that he's a total creep, but it all seemed pretty well orchestrated to just get him and his show in the news. You know, this is a good one. That's Manafort. How badly do you want to get out of this? And he's got the newspaper that says, Kevin Spacey, I'm gay, right? I don't know. You know, sometimes any news is good news, as they say. Any publicity is good publicity, right? Like, here at Wake Up Wyoming, if there was some big scandal involving me, it'd probably be, all in all, a boost for my show. And it's the same with House of Cards on Netflix. Moving along to economic news. Thank you so much for tuning in. Kate Catanella saying Spacey does not represent the Hollywood high-level pedogate. It is a distraction, right? I agree. Tammy Bell, no way. I think Kevin Spacey is a badass. Brian Peterson chiming in. Thank you, Brian. Brian letting us know. Brian, if you can drop a link in there to confirm your statement, we really appreciate it. He's saying it's only select cities and not a real EMP, just a drill shutting off the power. Right. Again, you know, we've seen this time and time again. You see guys like, well, the mainstream does it, but then you see guys like Alex Jones, right? In the wake of the Las Vegas shooting, Alex Jones said, I predicted this event, and the response is going to be a civil war within the next month. You know, that's what he actually said while the blood was still wet on the pavement in Las Vegas. Okay, there's going to be a civil war because of this event, right? It's fear-mongering. It makes people terrified. It's what it's all about. It's how people are kept in control. It's like if we're all scared about an EMP, if we're all getting prepped out for an EMP attack, we're not really focused on making our communities better, standing up to corruption on a local level that we can actually do something about, stuff like that. So let's focus on what we can control. And on that note, we're moving into business news. I guess we can't really control that either, but you know, appreciate y'all tuning in. The S&P 500 ends October on a streak. Okay, stock market still hovering near all-time record highs. Several of the world's largest central banks are meeting this week, and the Bank of Japan decided Tuesday to keep its interest rates at ultra-low levels. The Bank of England is expected to raise interest rates Thursday, which would be the first increase in a decade. And the Federal Reserve will wrap up a two-day meeting today, though most economists expect it to wait until its December gathering to raise rates for the third time this year. More attention is on President Trump's choice for the next Fed chair. He's expected to make the announcement Thursday, and the leading candidate appears to be Jerome J. Powell, who's already a member of the Fed's board. Again, J. Powell, not a fan of cryptocurrencies. Goes on, talking about the tax cut thing. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. In other news, Dilbert has successfully taken control of his boss's brain with a smartphone. This neural interface is live. His brain is now communicating with his phone. He's sending me a brain text. It says, please help me. My phone is taking control of my body. It worked. Now we just need to write an app that makes him a better boss, right? So it's cool to see Dilbert poking fun at the situation where most people are largely controlled by their phones, and not just like in a physical sense, but in a very real electromagnetic sense too. Your government in action right here. Pruitt Guts EPA panels will pick new members The head of the EPA, just, I don't know, whatever. The head of the EPA gutting the EPA, basically. So we'll see what happens there. It's kind of funny. When I was in D.C. for the Standing Rock marches, the EPA building is right across the street from the Trump Hotel in D.C. It's a funny place. Horoscopes, we'll get into those pretty soon. Let's see if we got anything else worth sharing with y'all. Weather, it looks kind of crummy around here coming up. You know, we got our classic. There always has to be some Israel porn in the Jackson Hole Daily. You got to hype up Israel. Got to talk up the Jews. Don't forget the Holocaust. Mention that at least once a week in the Jackson Hole Daily. As usual, there are pages upon pages, stacks on stacks of jobs in Jackson Hole. Of course, no affordable places to live unless you want to really commute. Let's get into the scopes. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tammy Bell Todd saying, I'm pretty sure the iPhone is more powered to control than Droid. You know, I have to say one thing before we get into the scopes on the topic of technology, right? I use a desktop PC that's hardwired in. I disable Bluetooth. I disable Wi-Fi. If I was really concerned, I'd probably go into the physical unit and remove the hardware for these components. But the important thing, when I'm not using it, I shut the thing off and I kill this power supply to it. Same thing with a smartphone. Like, this is a cheapo. This is a Verizon Galaxy J7. One nice thing about this phone, unlike the iPhones and unlike the vast majority of phones that are more expensive, I can take the battery out of this bad dog. So I can literally kill it completely, right? It's a nice feature. Highly recommend that to people. Get yourself a phone that you can kill completely, and set your computer up on a power strip where you can completely shut off the power. Bryson Burns asking, one newspaper, limited opinion. Well, Bryson, that's a really good point. I also go through, one of my sources is Rice Farmer, and he goes through every day pretty much and looks at news all over the world. Highly recommend ricefarmer.blogspot.com. He's got a pretty pessimistic worldview, but he's been doing this for a very long time, and obviously bathing in the awareness that the mainstream media puts out there continually, day in and day out, putting together unique headline setups like this, a compendium of news from all over the world every day will make you depressed. So Bryson Burns, I think we all have limited opinions, bro, but in addition to reading the Jackson Hole Daily, I go through Rice Farmer's links every day, and he sources at least 100 different newspapers and news outlets, both mainstream and independent, of a reasonably reputable nature all over the world. So there you go. You got it. Thank you, Bryson Burns. I thank you so much. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we all have limited opinions. I think that's part of it. It's important to try to be aware. It's important to try to be informed. But at the same time, like, how do I say it? My old boss, I used to work with Michael C. Rupert, right? He was an investigative journalist. He spent his whole life, well, not his whole life, but from the mid-'70s when he got blacklisted by the LAPD for blowing the whistle on the CIA smuggling cocaine into the country. From the mid-'70s until his death in 2014, this guy basically bathed in the mainstream media continuously, trying to make sense of it all, his way he put it, he always said he wanted to separate the ice cream from the bullshit and try to come up with like a comprehensive understanding to be able to give people like, here, this is what's happening, here's some certainty. And, I realized working with him that that's not really possible. And even trying to do it will drive you utterly insane. Marta Lyle said he knew Gary Webb. Yeah, he was on the, him and Gary Webb were buddies, and he was about, when did Dark Alliance come out? Like 1987? Is that right? Let me find out. Mike started addressing this stuff back in the mid-'70s. Gary Webb put out his groundbreaking book, Dark Alliance, in the wake of his articles, his coverage of the San Jose Mercury. Actually, 1998 is when Dark Alliance came out, but his reportage at the Mercury was before that, in July 1995. So Mike was on the whole CIA smuggling drugs thing about 20 years before that. He was the first guy who was reputable, top of his class at LAPD, top of his class at UC Berkeley, and then he got recruited to look the other way while they were smuggling drugs. He said no, but it turns out the government has been running drugs and guns for a very long time, right? When we talk about wars, let's see, the history of war, what are they fighting for? What is Uncle Sam really fighting for? They're fighting for God, gold, oil, and drugs. Yeah. And obviously the whole military-industrial arms trade's in there as well. So let's get into the scopes here. Finally, thank you all for your patience. Chi-Town Nista, Virgo, 5-star day. Let's see. My paper is saying 4. Chi-Town. One-on-one relating throws a touchy situation into a whole new light. You'll understand why the other party involved is being so assertive. You could be thinking through a problem and will have little time to respond to this person. Tonight, be willing to go for what you want. So enjoy that. Chi-Town, Brian Peterson, I know you're an Aries. Thank you so much, my first Patreon supporter. Love you, bro. Call me up anytime to chat. You are having a 5-star day, Brian. You feel invigorated with energy and ready to tackle anything that comes along. However, if you feel annoyed, you could just as easily lose your temper. Use caution, as your fuse could be short. Words spoken can't be taken back. Tonight, whatever suits the moment. And taking your advice, Brian, I'm going to cross off the scopes that I have already read. Moving along, Ryan Edwards looking for Sagittarius. Here we go. Ryan, thank you for tuning in. You are having a 4-star day according to the scopes. You might be a lot happier and more direct than you have been in a while. A new friend could be unusually pushy. If this person doesn't get what he or she wants, you'll see some anger emerge. Be straightforward and help this friend to chill out. Tonight, Sagittarian Ryan Edwards, fun and games. April Bosa, what's up, April? How you doing there? Hope all is well for you out in California. You're having a 3-star day, like me. You might have worn yourself out over the past few days. That could be true. Consider working from home or taking a day off. You need some time to evaluate what could be an irritating situation. Use care and sensitivity with a partner who seems to be out of sorts. Tonight, be a couch potato. I am going to be reading tonight, getting ready for the interview with Derek Bros. Tomorrow should be a really good show. As far as irritating situation, the mainstream's irritating. I have to say I've been a bit overwhelmed with people sending me links. I appreciate people sending me stuff. I don't sit in front of my computer all day. And it's funny, it seems to follow a trend. Somebody will start sending me stuff, and then they'll send me a message that's like, oh my God, I'm sorry for annoying you. Maybe you don't want my help. But no, I do. I love people sending me stuff. I really do. The thing is, I got like 10 or 12 people sending me stuff, and like, you don't need to let me know that the police, that a guy ran people over in New York City, right? Because that's going to be on the front page of the paper the next morning, right? And I can't cover every issue. I can't read every article you send me. So I'll read some of them. I'll take a good look at the headline and maybe I'll get into it. But please don't get discouraged if I don't read it or if I don't reply right away. Odds are, if it says I'm online, I'm probably doing something else on the computer. And and I appreciate you all sending me stuff. Just know that, like, you're not really annoying me by sending me stuff, but if you get concerned that I've been annoyed by you for not writing back, then I've, like, because I do care, because I do value the audience, then I like have to take time to explain myself. Like, no, I'm not annoyed with you. I'm just busy. And I appreciate people sending me links, but I can't read them all. Thank you. David, Coco Rico, Cancer, and Leo. Here we go. 3-star day. Tension mounts between you and a key associate who seems to be calling the shots. Well, you might not have seen this person so energized and determined before. Sit back and enjoy his or her passion, or jump right in. Do whatever feels more comfortable. Tonight, in the limelight. And Leo for the Mrs. Coco Rico, a 4-star day. David, thank you, by the way, for being a Patreon subscriber. Reach out to someone at a distance. You might not be able to home in on what is happening with this person, so ask a friend or two. You might not understand where a friend's strong feelings are coming from. Listen carefully. Tonight, meet a friend at a new restaurant. Frankie J asking about the EMP. Yeah, we've been following that. Not really worried about it. Don't stress. Don't stress. Jason Krozak looking for Aries. Here we go. Oh, I already read Aries. Sorry. 5-star day. Hit rewind. Kate Catanella looking for Capricorn. Here we go. 3-star day for you, Kate. Pressure builds to complete a personal matter or to make a decision at home or in your domestic life. You might be forced to make a major change by a boss, parent, or higher up. Don't worry so much. Instead, gracefully let go and take a step back. Tonight, Kate Catanella, head home early. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, Mike McCleary, I already did Sag, so hopefully you caught it. Sagicorn, I think that's Sagittarius Capricorn. I read that one. Frankie J, what's up? Pisces, here we go. 5-star day for you, Frankie. Reach out to a friend at a distance. You could be swallowing your anger and not recognizing what is coming out through spending. Rein in a tendency to go overboard and use some self-control. Consider addressing your anger. Tonight, be aware of your finances. Moving along. Deanna Gallant Cancer. I did Cancer already, so hopefully you caught that. Chi-Town, glad you're happy. April, what's up? Aquarius for you, Dawn. Here we go. Aquarius having a 4-star day, according to the paper. You could be aggravated or overly energetic right now. Funnel this high energy into some kind of productive project, and you will be less likely to lose your temper. You might want to express your frustration rather than have this feeling build. Tonight, make and return calls. There you go, Aquarius. Thank you so much. David Novak looking for Leo. Got that. Clayton Best. Yeah, check out Rice Farmers Links. You want to get overwhelmed. John Garcia. I don't know what that sign means, so you're going to have to let me know. David Novak, you're welcome. Wow, that's quite the profile pic you got there, bud. Classy. And I think that about sums it up for Wake Up Wyoming today. Probably not the best show I've ever done, looking at my own, my own situation here today, but I'm trying to get into the habit of going live right at 10 a.m. for you all. So that's a little part of it, that's for sure. And on top of that, it's overwhelming, a lot going on. So can't put out the best show every day. Again, patreon.com. Anybody wants to support my work, there it is, right there. That's Vinny. Check out my Patreon page. You want to support Wake Up Wyoming? Certainly very much appreciated. We're trying to build the independent media. I seem to have lost 2 patrons overnight, which is a bum, but so it goes. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm signing off for now. Y'all take care. One love. Peace.